This is the Bar Stewards Enquiry.
You're talking absolute rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
In what way?
You were an underachiever in life. I saved your bacon one time. You were gone.
You handled that well. I couldn't save you. But you did the right thing.
Well, that's why you don't know anything about racing, John.
I didn't say I do.
Right?
I'm saying that...
What have you contributed to racing? You're one of these take-out merchants. Take out all you can.
And a massive warm welcome to our listeners. This is the BARSTEWARDS Inquiry Weekend podcast covering the Ayr Gold Cup and Newbury big meetings tomorrow. And we've got myself that's got also a special at Woodbine for you at the end of the show. So stay tuned for that. Joining me tonight are as follows: John Lang of John Joe's Blogspot, as always, and special guest and honorary bar steward is Andy Richmond. Welcome, guys, to this show tonight.
Evening, Lee.
Evening, Lee. Good evening. We've got a busy show, so I'll crack on because obviously we've got 9 TV races, as Andy reminded me earlier today. Chortle. So it's a busy show, and we have got some issues and questions. And one of the first questions I thought would ask, a fun one to start the show, was from Carl Swanson. And he said, following Altior's retirement this week, which ones of Popeyes are you looking forward to not seeing next season? so I'll come to you, John, first. Any Popeyes, stable stars you're looking forward to another year off?
Well, I think he's done the spade work already, announcing the wind up with Shishkin, hasn't he? So I think we can expect to not see that before Christmas, and probably not see it in the run-up towards the Fez, and then quite close to the Fez we'll probably get told we're not seeing it this year, especially if the ground's heavy. So, I think that's probably the one I'm looking forward most to not seeing.
Class. I mean, national season of only 22 shopping days away is Chepstow, apparently. And I've been told to say that by a random listener because he's fed up of listening to the Cheltenham, rubbish that goes on for weeks and months ahead. Like we talk about Cheltenham in July. It's ridiculous. But yeah, he says 22 days to Chepstow. So, Andy, anything of Henderson's that you think,
I think John's stolen my thunder there, because I think I saw a quote from Popeye saying it's grown more than any other horse he's ever seen. So it's been growing. It's been like a monster now.
18 hands, a police horse.
I mean, he's probably massive, if he hasn't had it out of its box, it might have grown so big for the door.
Something like that. I think it's been eating its own body weight or something this year.
I think Lydia needs to ask him. And
I think so.
I am looking forward to a few controversial interviews between himself and Lydia, especially if the discussion on the ground. That's still one of my favourite excerpts for that. And I do love the way Lydia stood her ground there against Endo, who'd had about 16 gin and tonics on board as well.
Absolutely.
He was getting more and more purple by the minute, wouldn't he? But I suppose Shishkin has got to be the main one this year. We'll probably see it rock up at Doncaster to beat one man and his dog in some race about 6 weeks before the Fez, and that'll be it. And it'll be straight to the festival. Nothing. Yeah. I mean, the strength in depth might be over in Ireland in terms of national hunt, but at least the boys over there, whatever you think of some of their trainers. And I'm sure that's a topic that we'll come on to at some point. At least they run them against each other and, pitch them in against each other. But over here, it's like, let's avoid. But I think Shishkin's probably the one that we may not see this year this side of Christmas.
Certainly plenty of national hunt talk to come. Obviously, Catherine Fry will be wheeled out more often in this jump season this winter because she loves the Irish scene. She can't get enough of it. Can't get enough of these bent Irish gambles from Catherine. So she'll be on hand for us this winter to carry me and John through to the Lincoln. So good fun coming up this winter on the Bar Stewards. All right, a topic close to my heart at the moment is obviously the Gambling Commission, and Andrew Lowry's been on from Optimum Racing, and he makes a very good point here. He says, chaps, if we're not careful, because of the incompetence of some and the inability of others to differentiate between gambling on random games of chance and sports betting, which is an intellectual pursuit, basically, the way we're heading is for oblivion here. And obviously, I'm a firm critic of the Gambling Commission, but I'd like to know what you guys think of all of the measures put in place, i.e., under 25s about the loss limits, and bookmakers obviously turfing out genuinely good punters. I mean, just to feed your information, I regularly get information into DMs on Bar Stewards from punters that have lost their accounts, and some punters are winning punters, some punters are recreational, as in just now and again, and they just enjoy a bet on the TV racing, etc. Some punters are losing punters, so there's a broad demographic, and I just wondered what you two both thought of the Gambling Commission sort of celebrating today that they'd won the Regulator of the Year award, which would be, I would imagine, an expensive dinner in some posh London affair. Not bad for an association that's lost £19 million in the last year hunting down problem gamblers. I hope that's a fruitful pursuit for these people. But right, Andy, I'll come to you. What's your thoughts on the game as it's going, in terms of where the GC seem to be taking us?
On the road to hell, I should think.
Yeah.
The old M25's had a bad press this week, hasn't it? I mean, Jesus. At least the police turfed that lot off today pretty quickly. Don't start me off on that. The Gambling Commission, they're about as much use as a chocolate fire guard. I mean, that is money for old rope, isn't it? I appreciate, and having worked for bookmakers, worked for Betfair, worked for bookmakers prior to that, I appreciate that there are a section of people where gambling is an addiction and an illness, and I think that is something that we need to treat seriously, and properly and rightly. But by the same token, we need to separate out the games, as you have said, Lee, the games of chance, where there is absolutely no skill in them at all, such as the slots, the fruities, whatever you want to call them, casinos, all that sort of stuff. And games of what I would call skill sports betting, because you have got a chance of winning if you were allowed to. It does seem there is a vast, almost a cornucopia of people who are banned. Like, there is no rhyme and reason behind, implication, your accounts being shut down. It does seem very piecemeal. That's the word I'm looking for. As to how they get shut down. You might just strike unlucky sort of back in maybe a Hugh Taylor horse, or maybe an Andy Holding horse a couple of times, and you're marked down for that, probably marked down as an arbor then, and etc. etc. You might just be exceptionally good at them. You might have just caught them with their pants down a few times. So it's a vast problem. It needs. I mean, and I'm not sure that it's done any good by people like, I'll mouth off on one, Peter Shilton, who, for want of a better word, has completely effed his life up and now wants to just stop everyone betting. Well,
pretty much.
You made the mistakes. Why are we into just stopping everybody? I did see a tweet today explaining it, sort of almost encapsulating this very, very well. That we just want to stop everybody else doing things as well. Yes, we know there are dangers in gambling. There's dangers in alcohol. There's dangers in tobacco, etc., etc. But surely there comes a point where people have to almost take their own situation and take themselves in hand. And some people can't, so they do need help. But people like him, just who did F his own life up, for want of a better word. I won't swear. But now he's on some crusade to stop us all punting. It's just crazy.
It is.
Absolutely crazy. It makes my absolute blood boil, to be honest with you. You know, I've been now for what, since 2008, full time, you know, for want of a better word, betting. Been fairly successful at it, and now somebody wants to stop me doing it because it's something I'm in control all the time. I have the appropriate breaks, etc., etc. The one thing we need to do is educate people more, and that brings me on maybe the youngsters. Yeah, we maybe do need to educate them a little bit more about the dangers of gambling, etc., etc. But you know, putting the sort of brakes on that young, I'm not sure that's the way to do it. Education's the way for me, not just sort of stopping people gambling and loud sort of people like Shilton just do my head in. They really do. Because when we've managed to stop gambling, the next thing will be drinking and, you know, alcohol and everything like that. And I think that's probably a worse danger than betting is.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the times we live in, where in the last 10 years or so, we're basically victimhood has taken over, where no one takes responsibility. It's blame everybody else for their own failings, and that's across many industries, many whatever. No one takes responsibility, and that's one of the problems. What I would say is I'm upset with the language the Gambling Commission uses. On the 26th of January 2021, the Gambling Commission did studies on problem gamblers, and basically they claimed a ridiculously high amount of problem gamblers that was rubbish, basically by other associations. It's approximately 0.7% of gamblers are problem gamblers, which equates to probably 300,000 Brits at some point have basically come into some form of gambling problems at some point during their life, i.e. they've caused themselves a lot of financial damage, which gambling can do, as we know, and we're sympathetic to that. As bar stewards, we're certainly sympathetic. However, this language for me, and this was from the Commissioner on the 26th of January 2021, I'll quote these words. Unfortunately, around 7% of gamblers claimed that they are doing it to earn some money. Can you unfortunately, as if to say, so this is the Gambling Commission, right? That's supposed to, you know, I understand where they're coming from, our RE problem gamblers, but how can you use language such as that, basically stating that it's not possible to win money gambling? Now, I mean, this is a government quango set up to basically sort out the industry that's not regulated, which, yes, I agree, you know, it needs regulating, but their wording in their terms and conditions has given bookmakers a complete license to just decimate their databases of people they probably don't want, and you know, and this is happening under the nose of the BHA, who are powerless and all this, absolutely powerless, and I take great offence to this, because I think to use language such as that, saying that you cannot make money betting, I mean, we all know what the real problem is, like you said, Andy. It's slots, casinos, betting on skilled sports events, horse racing is not a problem because the margins are small by bookmakers, by Betfair, literally 1% margins with a little bit of commission, blah, blah, blah. You can beat that quite comfortably. Any American player that's betting to worse odds than that will tell you this, that they would give the right arm to be able to legally bet on Betfair right now on sports events. And a lot of them probably are, you know, via various sources. But the point is, you know, when it becomes America's expanding, you know, not disbanding like we are as a nation. It's like, oh, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I just looked at the staffing of the Gambling Commission. Right, so you look at these. Marcus Boyle, basically was with Deloitte, a financial organisation. Catherine Seddon, Commissioner, Senior Independent Director, 20 years as a filmmaker. Right, I kid you not. Carol Brady, MBE, Commissioner. She manages her own consultancy business. Joe Hill, a member of the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority. John Bailey, a chartered accountant. Terry Babbs, commissioner. Worked in a number of global supply chain management.
Do you think any of these
Tesco.
people have ever had a bet?
No, absolutely not. I mean, none of the. The point is, if you and I've never understood this. If you set up a government quango, why is there not a senior bookmaker on that panel? And I don't necessarily mean one of the big four. Or what used to be the big four. I'm showing my age, but whatever. One of the big. It should be a normal sort of independent bookmaker that's got his interests at heart. It should be possibly a professional punter with his interests at heart, advising the board of the Gambling Commission to use language that 7% actually believe they can make money at this. You know, that's the kind of language that they are using, and everyone should be scared by this, because this doesn't end here. This continues, and they have got us by the stick at the minute. Everyone's, bookmakers are saying, well, we've got to do this. No, they haven't got to do this. They're basically utilising a very broad brush stroke in the Gambling Commission terms and conditions, which states that under the guise of problem gambling, the bookmakers must do what they see fit. They must do what they see fit. Now, that's a very broad stroke in which to tarnish the industry, tarnish the betting industry, horse racing, football, whatever. It's all lads, £10 hackers. We can see where the bookmakers want to go. Lots of betting slips, low stakes, no damage, high margins. I get it. It's very good. And the slots. That's what they want. They don't want people having large bets. And that's the way the industry is heading. And Jeff Banks can come on and respond and do what he wants. John, anything to add to my comments?
Well, I agree with what both of you say, really. But I will point this out, that we are heading for disaster unless there's a wholesale clear out at the top in racing. Because racing has nobody batting for it and nobody willing to get their hands dirty by getting into the nitty-gritty of it with the Gambling Commission. We've got a chief executive of Great British Racing in Rod Strait. He's there as racing's champion, if you like. Now, his Twitter this week, they say irony's dead. He pulled a thing from the Times about Boris Johnson announcing the return of imperial weights and measures, making it legal for market stalls, etc., selling pounds and ounces. And his comments are, I don't think this matters one way or another. And that's the awfulness of it. Crowd-pleasing stuff for the ageing party members and rabid Brexiteers. Does nothing for growth, addresses no issue, just nonsense. Has he looked at what he's been doing as chief executive of Great British Racing? Because at that sums his tenure up in no uncertain terms. This week, John Haynes tweeted that information regarding declarations is not available for love nor money before about 1 o'clock the day that the declarations are made. Yeah. And I said, information that the BHA could freely make available is withheld constantly, hard to access. And I tweeted Rod Strait in it, no response whatsoever. He's not interested. He's interested in fluff pieces about how long it takes to get a horse fit. Absolute bullshit that brings nothing into the sport whatsoever. He should be tackling the Gambling Commission head on over this. He's not doing his job.
Absolutely. Racing needs flushing of these characters. They're basically take, offering nothing, zero. And John's just highlighted it there. That I mean, this is why racing's heading down the pan. BHA is wakey. It's time to have a voice. No, what we'll do, we'll make a diversity post. I know what we'll do. We'll make another kind of ITV racing gin making post. Whatever. They do not do anything to stop the slide. There's no, they don't voice the concerns. There's no major statement from the BHA voicing the concerns over punters not being able to bet.
Because nobody's pay's gone down. That's the problem. I mean, they're not on performance-related pay. If they were, they'd be eating squirrels.
Yep. Astonishing. Anyway, so listeners, you know where we stand on this, and we'll be talking about it for months ahead, as we always do. But we've got a show to do, and we've got some tipping to do, and it's a very busy weekend, so we'll crack on, and we'll go to Newbury first, chaps, for the 2:15, which is the 5 furlongs Dubai International Airport World Trophy Stakes, a Group 3 affair, where the Charles Hills, impressive last time out winner at Doncaster Cardham, heads the favourite, heads the field at 4-1. Andy, I'll come to you first, please, on your choices.
Yeah, it was like a different Cardham, wasn't it, at Doncaster? I'm not sure what he beat, though. It was, the first time he dropped to 5 furlongs. He'd been on a long losing run, but the horse I'd sort of had a question mark about, and I've still got a little bit of a question mark about. Obviously, I've got a bit of a soft spot for Hurricane Ivor, because I thought he did really well to win the Portland last week. I've been banging on about the horse for ages, but I just think this time, that Tis Marvellous fits the right profile for this race. He's been pretty smart. The Clive Cox Yard is in good form at the moment. The Ascot handicap that he won on his penultimate start could work out well. Worth bearing in mind that Magical Wish, who runs in the Silver Cup up at Ayr, ran 3rd in that, and he looks like he's coming to fruition. More of him later. And he also won the Beverley Bullet, where the 5th and 10th have won. Dandella won today, quite impressively at Ayr, and the 10th out of that, Show Yourself. She won at Beverley earlier in the week. Of course, she really does like, in fact, a 3-year-old against older sprinters there. And he just sort of fits the profile. I think it is his time of year, Tis Marvellous. So I'd just give him the edge, reluctantly, over Hurricane Ivor in this. I've still got a little bit of a question mark about Cardham, but Tis Marvellous to continue on his upward curve off a mark of 109 now. Not that that matters because it's a conditions race, but he is quite a useful sprinter on his day, and I think he'll just shade this over Hurricane Ivor.
Good stuff. Tis Marvellous for Andy at 4-1. Adam Kirby on board. John, your selection for this race?
Well, Cardham's a shitbag bastard, isn't it? You couldn't be taking shots about him. The one I like's Moss Gill. He's been running quite well all season. 2 wins on soft ground early in his career, so I'm not worried if there's any rain. This minimum trip seems to suit best. Gets on okay with PJs. Missed a break a couple of times this year. If he gets away on terms, I think he's bang there on the figures. Obviously, Hurricane Ivor is a danger coming here from the Portland sprinters in form and all that. But I think conditions races tend to be somewhat different. And I think Mossgill's a fairly solid each-way poke in this.
Yeah, Mossgill gets the blinds for the first time for Edward Bethel, who's made a great start to training this season. PJ in the saddle at 15-2 for John. I'm with Andy's, ex-lover, Hurricane Ivor. Just to stick the knife in if that pops up. No, yeah. I thought he did very well at Doncaster, and Andy was very, very correct in his assessment. He was falling over a cliff. And he was right. I don't think that draw was particularly advantageous at Doncaster.
No.
And I think he will step forward, and this could be a big day for the shagging shirt. So Hurricane Ivor for me at 9-2 is my selection with Tom Marquand in the saddle. I think he's a sprinter that could just eke out that extra few pounds, and he wouldn't have to improve to win this. So I like Hurricane Ivor. Right, we move on to the 250. It's the 11 furlong Dubai Duty Free Legacy Cup Stakes, a Group 3 affair. Formerly the ARC trial. I don't think you see many ARC winners running in this, but nevertheless, the shagging shirt has the 8-11 favourite Al-Azi. Blogger and Stallion have steamed in. They've blocked John. They've blocked him, so he can't tell what they're backing anymore. They blocked him. I don't
think it takes a sporting genius to work out what they're backing, does it? I mean, this will be Al-Azi will be in with Juan Elcano tomorrow in the selfie stick double from some godforsaken Eastern European country. Get on, lads, 50 quid double. no problem.
Yeah. I mean, John, can you oppose the Blogger Stallion first leg of the double?
I oppose the Blogger and the Stallion being part of the human race now. They've actually blocked them on Twitter. I mean, they've been very professional about it. They've blocked both Twitter accounts.
Oh, that's it. They've sorted you.
Yeah, they've sorted me out for the time being, anyway, until I get another Twitter account that can keep an eye on them.
You'll have to be Leslie and
I might have to draft a sister in or something, you know.
You could be at Shagging Shirt, John.
Well, I might become the Shrieking Kilt and bring my sister into play, I think. See where we get with that. Anyway, to business. Fox's Tails isn't far behind the best of these on the adjusted figures. Goes well on this sort of ground. Should certainly be in the Shake Up. Hasn't been too busy this year, really. Should still be reasonably fresh. But the Fab could be dangerous. I mean, he's knackerless now, so that's might improve him from being the right ponce in finishes when it gets down and dirty. And if he's also one with Eric and Ivor, the poor old tiddly that runs the laundry in Newmarket might be worried because you might be getting an influx of shirts at the end of the weekend.
It's very, very well summed up. I was an Al Arzi fan. I'm all over the shirt on Saturday, but 11 to 10. I was a player. 8 to 11. I'll leave that to the masses. It simply is like this one's sort of drifting outside off stump, and I can watch it go back to the keeper. So Al Arzi would have been at 11. Well, watch the market. If it drifts back it. If it stays around 8 to 11 or 4 to 5 on the machine, we can leave that. The 325 race, the Dubai duty-free handicap. Again, the shirt is ahead in the market at 7-2. Tom Marquand in the saddle. I'll start this one off, and I'm all over the shirt, really. Again, I think it's a shirt Saturday, really. It's a wardrobe full, according to John. And I think Aramaic is a very, very nice colt. Saw him in the flesh at York when he ran on the 5th September. Backed him accordingly. He's a very, very progressive colt. I think he's one of these that will probably end up somewhere around 110. Not this season, but maybe next season. But off 94, it's mincemeat if things go right for him here. And I think, to be honest, 4 to 172, I think represents value. And I would be a decent player at those odds. So Aramaic for me. Andy, I'll come to you.
They won this last year, didn't they? With
a
very similar type, Il Arab. Another one of
That's
yours.
right, yeah.
You could end up following Aramaic as much as you would. He's upset. I mean, he deserved to go up. Probably deserved to go up. What did he go up? £7 for that York win. Probably deserved to go up a bit more. He didn't exactly beat a lot because he only beat Pivoine, but I think visually he was impressive. He's the one slight niggle. He's unproven on slower ground, which is a little bit of a niggle for me. I just thought there might be a little bit more value in King of Clubs, who I was quite impressed with last time out. He won last time out. He beat Victory Chime. Did quite well to hunt him down from the back of the field. That was at Sandown. In fact, I think Victory Chime actually probably got first run on him, and he did pretty well to stay on. He led bang on the post. It's the run before that, or the handicap before that, the one on the 9th of July at the Newmarket July course. That is really strong form. It was the Bet365 Stakes, the Heritage Handicap. The winner was Dubai Honour, came out and won in France. Fox's Tails was second, came out and won next time out. King of Clubs was third, won next time out. Highland Rocker was fourth, won next time out. And go down as far as the 7th, Headingley, that won next time out as well. So it was a strong piece of form. And I just think there might be a little bit more juice in the price. He's won on good to soft over a mile. That was at Nottingham Maiden back in May. And he has, per se, that handicap form since looks pretty decent to me. He's progressive, and I appreciate and respect Aramaic. I just thought there was a little bit more juice in the price of King of Clubs.
Good shout. King of Clubs there, and obviously a good form angle from Andy there, as mentioned. 13-2. David Prober in the saddle for Andy. That's his selection, 325. John, can you add to this?
Well, Aramaic's seriously on the upgrade. I think it's a typical Haggerson Prober. Very hard to discount. The one I'm interested in here is King Leonidas. I think this is hugely interesting for Slim, bringing it back at this stage of the season. It looked like being serious last year. This went off favourite for a Jersey Stakes, for God's sake. It's only running off 102 here. I mean, if you think you can win a Jersey Stakes, you reckon you've got 110 horse, I'd have said.
Yeah.
The trip is interesting as well. I think he's bred more along the lines for this trip than he was for the Jersey Stakes, in all honesty. And I think this could be a good starting point for a pretty good back end of a season for him. I mean, it's guesswork how fit he is. As a rule, Gosden tends to have him ready. He doesn't have many sighters, especially his older horses.
Yeah.
So he'd be a winner on the option because I think he'll either win or bomb out. You'll know your fate after 50 yards. If he's pulling like Rolf Harris at choir practice, well, good night and God bless, isn't it?
Where do you get these from?
I'm having a sporting little bet on King Leonidas.
I mean, you can actually see how good King Leonidas is. I mean, beat Eastern World, a couple of lengths. You can see the potential here with this bet. Like you say, it could be a stakes horse, etc. So good shout, John. King Leonidas there. So three different selections. Aramaic for me, King of Clubs for Andy, and King Leonidas for John. We move to the final race on the Newbury card, the 4 o'clock, where DeBab for Slim heads the market at 9-4. John, will come straight back to you then on this one.
Right, well, DeBab's form from early in the season's looking better now, given what the Godolphin horse has done subsequently. And, you'd tend to say he's got the form in the bank to justify being favourite. But the one I like, however, is the old shagging shirt, Maglev. I thought this ran a terrific race at York in a race that's working out tremendously well. The drop to 6 furlongs won't hurt in the slightest, I don't think. I think probably suit him actually at this stage. Maybe he just found it a tad hard going in the last furlong at York. I give him 97 for that, and I think he can certainly run to 100 and a bit, maybe he's 102-ish, and I think that puts him right banging amongst it here with this lot.
Good stuff. Maglev, 8-1 for the shirt. There are a few shirt tips today. Andy, can you agree with John on the shirt?
I do agree with John.
Fantastic.
I do think it's a bit of a, DeBab is interesting. I think it'll suit him coming back to 6 furlongs, because I thought that 7th furlong looked a step too far last time out in what admittedly was a pretty hot affair. And to give you some context to the race as well, that it's been a good race for market leaders, this race. Horses with an SP of 3-1 or shorter have got some very good figures. In fact, there's only in the past sort of decade, they've all been up there. Every one of the 23 runners in the past decade to start 11-1 or bigger is beat. There's not really one to go looking for a big price here. I sort of almost want to keep DeBab on side. Hannon's got a shocking record in this. Well, I say shocking. He's 0 from 4 in this, and he runs Gabas. But I do like Maglev. I think he's quite interesting. I know he's coming from a nursery, but that nursery could be quite good. Harrow won that big sales race, as John said, at Doncaster. The 7th one next time out, the 11th one next time out, the 14th one next time out, and the horse that dead heated with Maglev for second, Al Flayler, I thought ran a tremendous race last time out. I really want to be with that horse again next time out. Maglev, admittedly, as I say, comes from a a nursery. But if you go back far enough in this race, in the 60s and late 70s, early 80s, there were nursery winners at Kempton when the race was run there. King of Spain and Lookman ran that event. I just thought the form was quite good. I just thought he was one of those horses that could make the step forward. And when I was pricing this race up, I made him a couple of points shorter. I thought he was a little bit of value in the race, to use the V word, or perceived value. I always like to use the words more than anything. I thought Maglev, yeah, I agree with John. I think he made a good case for him there. And I certainly want to see him run well for the shirt. So Maglev, I think that form of that nursery at York from the Thursday of the meeting is working out well. And I think that's a race to follow, and hopefully Maglev will take a step up here for the shirt.
Bing bong.
No.
This is time. This is time. It is now time for a Bar Steward special. We have landed a Bar Steward special. We have 3 panelists, no conferring beforehand, may I add. This is what creates Bar Steward specials. Maglev is a Bar Stewards special. It's tremendous. This, we'll be pushing this all over Twitter. We're booming this, boom when it's one, boom, like the Twitter.
Selfie sticks.
Yeah, selfie sticks. Twitter, living your best life, boom, boom. Maglev is a Bar Stewards special. Concur with Andy and John. Nothing really to add because they've summed it up nicely. It is a very strong bet at around the 8-1 mark. For the reasons said, it basically pulled, like John says, Rolf Harris at I can't remember even what he said, but he pulled really hard over the
quiet practice was the word.
That was the one. Back to 6, absolutely is right up his street, and I'm very looking forward to seeing Maglev do the business for the Bar Stewards. It's a Bar Stewards special, folks. Right, before we go on to air, I'd just like to say some questions that I couldn't ask at this show due to time purposes have all been pushed back to the sermon. So, Lone Malvo, Ian Davis, Golf Club 2019, Rob Jackson and Edward Sheehay, your questions will be asked on Sunday. All great questions because some of them will be topics on Sunday. Excuse me, clean my throat. We move on to air, which is our principal meeting. Clean my throat again. I need more gin. Hang on. Gin time.
More gin.
I hope that's Warwickshire gin.
Well, it might be. I mean, we'll stay tuned on that. It could be a potential Bar Steward sponsor. We move to the first race on the air card, which is a 5-race card. Which I couldn't believe until Andy told me this morning. He said, get studying for the 4:15, he said. So I did. It's a good job he told me. 155 at Ayr. We have Juan Elcano heading the betting at 5-4. This could be the start of the Stallion and Blogger celebrations. Andy, I'll come to you.
Well, it could be with Juan Elcano. I'm not sure I'd want to trust him at the price, to be honest with you. He's had his sights lowered. I just wonder whether old Jolly Jim might produce Yukon Glen here. He's had a couple of below par efforts on his latest starts as well. It's all about horses sort of bouncing back this. And it just wasn't a race that I was enthused about. I don't think it's as strong as the sort of numbers suggest. I couldn't back either of the front 2 at the prices, and I'd be struggling to back anything else. So I'm going to play the pass card on this, and I think I'll be popping out to put the kettle on. No drinking whilst punting here, and a nice cup of Rosie Lee, I think, maybe with a slice of toast at that particular moment might be in order, but it wasn't a race that I had a strong opinion on. So nothing for me for the 155.
Andy, I agree. The prices are correct. It could be a Warwickshire gin and pate race for me. John, what were you saying here?
Juan Elcano probably has the form to win it, but as you both alluded to, I don't think he's one to be taking sharp prices about. And looking at the makeup of this trail, in all honesty, I'd rather go snorkeling at a sewage ram. And I can't swim.
These are the best one-liners on the internet. You won't get this on any other podcast because you can't afford him. He is available, but you can't afford it. This is just brilliant. Blows me. But I've known John years, and I ain't even know half of these things. So summed up by the Barstewards there, 155 Trim Pate race, 230. It's the Silver Cup, Andy, and I'm sure you're going to blow me away with some stats, etc., and some bets in the 230 Ayr.
I got a few. I mean, the first thing I'm just going back tomorrow. Good luck for good luck on RTV tomorrow, because it's a bit of a super Saturday, isn't it? Really, because they've got all 6 meetings on in the afternoon, 4 British meetings, 2 Irish. There's 30 races on in Britain, 16 in Ireland to cover. One's a national hunt event at Navan, and then there's a flat racing meeting at Gorham Park. That's 46 races between 1 o'clock and 5:45. Could be split screen tastic tomorrow afternoon.
Let's hope you've got a 60-inch.
But that's not quite that big, unfortunately. But or of course we can all use the old racing, what's it, extra, that doesn't really work that well.
Never works. No.
Hey-ho. But good luck tomorrow afternoon with that. So I just wanted to make that point. It was raining, wasn't it, here? Last couple of races.
It was, yes. I
saw Mr. Brun holding the umbrella, and it's always a bit difficult knowing how the going's going to change. It looks like at the moment. I mean, obviously, one thing we will see here is that if the race is won by the lower numbers, then everything in the Gold Cup that's lower numbers will get backed and everything else will drift. I'm not completely convinced about the draw, but it does look as though the middle to far side is slightly better at the moment. I'm going to make this. There are heaps of horses in here that I could back, to be honest with you. I've gone with last year's winner. Magical Spirit. Hopefully, Tis Marvellous will have run at Newbury by this time. But he won this race last year, admittedly off a £6 lower mark. I thought he was just the sort of horse who was coming into a little bit of form. It looked as though he was nearing his best at Ascot last time out. I just think the stable's been in pretty good form this week. Kevin Ryan has had quite a few winners here. Most of the stuff has run well. If the ground does ease, that's not going to bother him. He's quite nicely drawn in stall 4. Kevin Stott is a rider I quite like. There's a whole host of other horses in here. Royal Scimitar with the blinkers on first time out. You could certainly give a chance to Bickerstaff, Black Rod. I will have my usual small bet on, because that's the name of the place where I'm actually sitting at the moment. It's sort of /town/village, but he probably needs a little bit more giving the ground. 2 others that caught the eye were Music Society and Woven. I thought Music Society ran pretty well in the Great St Wilfrid to be 8th of 20. Woven has been sort of there or thereabouts in a lot of races this year. I can't make my mind up whether he actually is better over 7 furlongs, but I thought the more I thought about it, the more I kept coming back to last year's winner, Magical Spirit. And horses who've run well here before tend to run well again. I think he's a reasonable price, and I'll stay with Magical Spirit in a race where I certainly won't be going mad, but you could use those extended places that I'm sure the bookmakers will offer you. And he looks relatively solid on recent form.
Good stuff. Magical Spirit for Andy. Kevin Ryan. Kevin's starting the saddle. 11-1 best price at the moment for what could be a favourable draw on what we saw yesterday. Well, today's action as we're recording, but yesterday's if you listen on Saturday morning. John, your selection in this, please, or if anything.
Well, I'm sure regular listeners will be expecting me to be all over Royal Scimitar, like a spag ball all over the shagging shirt on the first date. Unfortunately, the rain has somewhat scuppered that one's chance, really. He's a proper top of the ground horse, and that won't help him in the slightest. Luckily, I have an alternative, and it is from the excellent Stuart Williams yard, Lord Rapscallion. I think this has a terrific chance, and I've availed myself of the 33s earlier. He stays 7, which I think helps enormously in this. He can be ridden handy. Marco Gianni's riding him, I think it's excellent. The yard's in superb form. They couldn't be running any better. I always like to see a Tom Morley horse as well. He's one of my favourite owners to back because he has plenty of winners. He's not what I class as an unlucky owner.
No,
He gets a lot of breaks in his races and things, and I always like to be on side with him. He's a nice fella as well, and I am literally all over Lord's Rapscallion.
Good stuff. It's good mention. At 28-1, still available for Lord's Rapscallion for John. That's the 43% kicking in. But yeah, so that's good stuff from John and Andy there. Tips in that race, Lord Rapscallion, and of course last year's who's on this course for Magical Spirit for Andy. Right. We nothing from me in that. It's another gin race, so I'll be slurring even more by the 305. So we go on to the 305. The Firth of Clyde 7-2 favourite is Headmistress. Andy, anything that you've unlocked in the Firth of Clyde?
Well, you obviously give Headmistress, who is unbeaten, a decent chance and still holds a Chevrolet Bark entry, and she steps up from 5 to 6, which should be a help. But I did like the run. Well, I didn't like the run because he nearly got knocked over at the start of Scott's Grace last time out. You've got to take it that she'll show the same form on grass as she has on all weather, but there's been a lot of promise in her first 2 starts, particularly the win on her debut for the trainer, Kevin Philippart de Foy. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? But I did like her run in the Cyrenia Stakes last time out when she was 5th to Eve Lodge, but go and watch the race, because if she's not better than the bare result, well, then I'm a Dutchman, to be honest with you, because she was a bit slow away, but that was due to some significant interference. Travelled really well throughout the race, then got badly hampered inside the final furlong, only got beaten 3 lengths in the end. And immediately I thought this race was probably one that they may well aim her for. And lo and behold, she turns up here. You have to respect Headmistress and probably Hala Athamani, who was impressive on her debut. But I did think Scott's Grace quite nicely drawn, if the draw is of today, with an up-and-coming young trainer. Scott's Grace, I thought was a little bit... I thought wasn't a bad price at around 11-2. I see there's some 13-2. If you can bet with that firm up in Stoke, I can't. I know some people might be able to. Otherwise, you're going to have to take about 11-2 or look on the machine. But Scott's Grace, I thought, was an interesting one there.
Good stuff. Scott's Grace for Andy at 13-2 for the Firth of Clyde. We bet with the Stoke team. John, your thoughts on this?
Well, for a Group 3, there's more filth in this race than the Hustler Christmas party, isn't there?
Bob Ogden's Christmas party.
Well, Bob Ogden's Christmas party is a bit more highbrow than the Hustler one. Well, having been to one and not the other, I shouldn't really comment. Hala Hathmani must have been named by Boris Johnson, because it would take somebody stupid enough to make Priti Patel Home Secretary to come up with such a ridiculous frigging name. Must be the worst named horse in training. I mean, Kevin must be embarrassed having to stick a saddle on this thing. Clearly, the thing a bit about it's been backed always. We're backed off the boards on debut. But in these situations, I tend to go with the man who I think can deliver, and that's Grrr. I think he very rarely travels his horses unless he has to, and I think he's probably spotted a Group 3 that he thinks he can do a bit of damage in.
So Grrr for you then, Don? 7-2. Right, headmistress for John, and Andy with Scott's Grace. Nothing for me again. It's powder dry. It's a good session for me this afternoon. So 2 powder dries for me. I've got nothing to tell you.
Be a lot of gin being drunk.
It's going to be I mean, it's a good job I've got one stateside for you at the end.
It's a good job you've got your sponsor lined up, isn't it?
Yeah, and the Woodbine Nap later. Anyway, let's go on to the big one, the 340, the Ayr Gold Cup. Come on, guys. We can get the winner of this and we can market it to town on Twitter and go, boom, boom. Come on, Andy, what you got?
Do you want me to cut to the chase?
Oh, Nick Davis has been on before you say this.
Oh.
And he says, how much can we have on, chaps, on the reverse forecast of Astilio and Just Frank? That's how confident Nick Davis is. You know, what can we say, Andy?
Not much of my bank, I can tell you that. But I'm not. Again, I'm going to have to, until I know otherwise. And this might all change after the Silver Cup. I'm going to have to side with those drawn middle to low. And I'm going to go with one of Ed Walker's. Not Great Ambassador. He's a horse I do like. But it's a bit short, around 6-1 in a race like this. I'm going to go with Popmaster and Holly Doyle. I think this has got some good form. I'm not quite sure he's not got the greatest record when he pops the old blinkers on first time out, but I do think this is an improving horse. It's just a horse I've followed all year. I just think Popmaster is the one for me. There's others in here, and it does look as though you need to be up with the pace, and that sort of slightly worries me about Great Ambassador. Just Frank I was keen on, but the draw 18 has just slightly put me off. By the way, Popmaster actually be out of stall 10 because Chief of Chiefs is a non-runner, so just slightly adjust the draw there. Comanche Falls, again, one has to come from the pace. Astilio, be interesting to see Billy Garrity ride him here. Bielsa is a bit like the football team he manages, flatters to deceive on every occasion. That'll upset a few people. Gulliver ran a tremendous race in Ireland last week. He's getting on a little bit. If the pace collapsed, he'd be sort of one I'd be taking a bit of a look at a reasonable price. Count D'Orsay didn't get much of a run last time out. Wouldn't surprise me to see him run well. But every time I looked at this, I came back to Popmaster as being a pretty solid sort to back at probably around the sort of 10, 11, 12 to 1 mark if we are lucky.
Good stuff, Andy. So 10 to 1 Popmaster with the blinds on first time to shorten him up. That's Andy's selection in the Ayr Gold Cup. John, selection.
Right. Well, I don't think low is where you want to be in this. Because I think Great Ambassador's a good horse, but his only hope of pace to chase would be Hay Jonesy reverting to the go forward tactics that won him the Wokingham last year. But he's been ridden with a bit of restraint of late. 16 and 18 look the boxes primed to go forward, which is getting towards me aside. It's not the pace war I was hoping for to go and nap on Astilio. I'll certainly back him because, you know, he's got one of these in the post. There's no two ways about it. But the nap of the race for me is Bielsa. Reunited with Kevin Stott. I don't think Super Sills got on terribly well with this horse. Now, when Kevin rode this in April, it was 2 lengths behind Comanche Falls. There's a £19 turnaround for that beating. And I think Bielsa definitely has one of these in the tank. And I'll be backing Bielsa and Astilio in this.
Good shout, John. Bielsa. Very good shout and very good case, well made for Kevin Ryan and Kevin Stott. 11 to 1. Astilio for me. I'm a little bit worried about the 21 draw. Prefer probably a more central draw, maybe just a little bit, you know, to the other side of Just Frank. I'd be happier. But Astilio for me, I think we've been waiting for this all season. Can't ditch him now. Astilio for me would be my Ayr Gold Cup selection. And the final TV race on the card. We're running short of time, chaps. If we can keep our selections punchy, it would be appreciated. Andy, coming to you for the final TV race on the card.
Right. Well, if the pace holds up, then we're going to see Cruyff turn. He of the York victory and 4 wins this year, and Chalier go on before. I definitely think Cruyff turn has got a chance because that form has worked out quite well. Been plenty of money. Hong Kong Harry will be suited by stepping up to a mile. Couple of little in-running pointers if you are playing in running. The one that's likely to go forward with Cruyff turn is Chalier. But just be careful with Chalier. He's had 7 in-running defeats at less than 2 to 1, and 4 of those have come at odds on. So
yeah,
his
complete
finishing effort is a little bit dodgy. And Dance Fever, if you fancy throwing a few quid at one in running at a bigger price, because I would not be backing him at around 5.3, 5.4. But if he does, he's likely to trade bigger in running. If you like backing horses that trade bigger in running, I don't think there's any value in the price there. That's not to say he can't win, but I would rather back him in running and hope for a pace collapse. But overall, I think Cruyff turn made with Thick Dave on may just outrun him here, and he certainly, if he gets the run of the race, will be out battling Chalier. So Cruyff turn for his 5th win of the year.
Good stuff, Andy. John?
Nah, it's not a festival, is it? Finishing off on a race like this. Nothing for me, thanks.
So, right, I'm with Andy with Cruyff's turn to back up that York win, basically, because I think, like Andy, I think he could get the run of the race here. So I'm a Cruyff's turn fan again to back that up. Very genuine horse, and Thick Dave to ride in with the bacon. Right, to finish the show off, I've got you a special, chaps. It's at, well, not a Barsteward special, but just one of my specials at Woodbine. In the final race on Saturday night, it's about 12 minutes past 11. It's the Woodbine Mile. Space Traveller is a very strong selection of mine. 12 to 1 on the morning line. Obviously, that's not the early prices. I don't know what they'll go on. This was 6 in the Sussex. It got squeezed out at the start in the Mr. D, the Grade 1 at Arlington over 10. I watched the race, stayed on nicely off moderate fractions into 4th. This 1-turn mile is absolutely his barrow. He should be running a season's best from that last prep. If things go right, he simply has to go close. What's interesting also is there's no Lasix allowed in this race, which will certainly affect a few in this race. So Space Traveller, for me, is a very, very good bet.
And just by looking at the race on Betfair, I've just found out that Danny Tudhope's middle name, or the second forename, is Alexander, because that's what they've got him listed as down there. Daniel Alexander Tudhope.
Which we never knew. And obviously Tudhope goes up for the
Never
ride.
knew that.
No, all Barstewards didn't know that. So Space Traveller is my real good special because I believe you can have a good each way bet on this. I think you're going to get paid. But check the prices because there's none as yet. But 12 to 1 on the Canadian morning line, that's a rick. I would make this also true roundabout 9 or 2, 5 to 1 chance, probably top. So see how they bet and bet accordingly. We hope you've enjoyed the show. That's all from me, John and Andy, and we're back on Sunday for the sermon. That's all from us. Bye for now.